Right.
Right.
Hello, and welcome to another unfiltered episode of Full Throttle on Unprecedented TV, where we go flat out on the issues that affect everyday life in Britain. I'm Paul Rudolph Naylor, Communications Director for the Alliance of British Drivers, and today we're talking to former politician, broadcaster, and independent transport correspondent, and let's face it, all-round legend, Lembit Öpik.
And I'm Brian Gregory, Policy Director of the Alliance of British Drivers. As Paul said, today we're going to be joined by Lembit Öpik, so buckle up. This is Full Throttle.
Here
Hello,
he is.
people of Earth.
Very man. Welcome, Lembit. A massive welcome.
What's all that about?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah,
I
Brian,
can't do that. You just have to pretend you've done that. Okay. Anyway, listen, for those who are maybe not familiar with you, do you want to just tell us a bit about your sort of career and life experience before we dive into our climate crisis Christmas special?
Yep, I started off in Northern Ireland, Estonian parents. Went to Bristol, did philosophy, so I was qualified to become an MP. Messed around in Parliament for 13 years. Then my constituents decided that was enough. I presented it for about a decade, then got off my backside. Now I run a TV station. Basically, the short version.
That was the short version.
Pretty well condensed. I'm sure there's a lot of other wrinkles that you sort of smoothed out there.
I'm not going to tell you the bad stuff, am I? You've got me here for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Lembit, lots of times we've talked between the two of us about the non-existent climate crisis and the science that proves it's non-existent. But today I've just pulled together a few slides we can talk through to basically bust the climate crisis myth, just blow it out of the water. So, I mean, the first thing is when you look at the chronology of atmospheric carbon dioxide levels and temperatures, the correlation's terrible. Well, it's non-existent virtually. That one, yeah. So this goes back like over 500 million years, and you can see the various ages, geological ages, Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, and so on. And the line is the red line is sort of what the average temperature over that whole period is, and the purple line is the carbon dioxide level, and the blue line, wavy line, is the temperature. So the first thing to see is that the trend in temperature actually from the sort of 8,000 years ago, the start of the Paleozoic period, that the temperatures were a lot higher than they are now. And in fact, over the temperature record, something like 80% of the time we've had higher temperatures than we currently have. So there's nothing unusual about today's temperatures other than that they're cooler than they've been in the past. And as you can see, the correlation between the blue line and always happens. Always happens. The correlation between the wavy blue line and the purple line is extremely poor. There's periods where the temperature and the carbon dioxide levels are going in different directions, and then other periods where there does seem to be some sort of register. But generally, where there is any kind of register, the temperature change drives the change in carbon dioxide level, not the other way around. So if we go to slide 2, Charlotte, please. And then you can see here, this shows atmospheric carbon dioxide and also shows the temperature. And if you can, it's quite hard to see, but if you look at it, you'll see that it's invariably the temperature that changes before the carbon dioxide level, not the other way around. So the temperature is being driven, the carbon dioxide level is being driven by the temperature, thanks to what's called Henry's law. Because essentially, as the temperature of seawater goes up, the solubility of carbon dioxide in seawater comes down, so it degasses. But all the time, over sort of short intervals, the ratio between atmospheric CO2 and oceanic CO2 is about 1 to 50. So there's about 50 times more carbon dioxide in the oceans than there is in the atmosphere. Okay, next slide, please, Charlotte. This is the CO2 concentration, which is very low. It's about 0.04%, 400 parts per million. And if you look at that block, the big blue block on the left, that represents the whole atmosphere. The small block in the top right-hand corner represents greenhouse gases. And you can see the greenhouse gases, and there's not much more concentration of greenhouse gases than there is of argon, which is quite the largest noble gas concentration in the atmosphere. And then if you focus on the top right-hand corner block, so that's the middle one, water vapor is by far and away the biggest greenhouse gas by concentration and also by effect, because it's a much more effective greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. But of course, it has the facility under the temperatures we see on Earth to be in any of its 3 phases, solid, liquid, or gas. And that's one of the other things. One of the big negative feedbacks in the climate is that water vapor can be there as clouds, can be there as just water in the vapor phase, or it can be there liquid, and indeed in some cases as ice, as solid. And only about 4% of greenhouse gases is CO2, and of that, only 3.5% of the 4% is man-made. So it's 9/10 of NAF all that we can affect. So trying to control our emissions won't make any difference to the climate because they're too small. The natural emissions of carbon dioxide just swamp the man-made ones. It makes them irrelevant. The other thing is that carbon dioxide's effect, the first few 20 or so parts per million of carbon dioxide put in the atmosphere have a huge effect. That represents over 80% of its effectiveness. As you add more and more carbon dioxide, diminishing marginal returns set in, so that where we are now at sort of 400 parts per million, to get another increment of temperature, and there's something called the equilibrium climate sensitivity, and the estimate of that started off being at like 6 degrees. What it means is if you double the amount of carbon dioxide, that would cause 6 degrees of warming. But that was the early estimate. Now the estimate is somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 degree for doubling the carbon dioxide level. So where we are now, to actually get an extra 1/2 or to 1/4 of a degree of warming, you'd have to double the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere to 800 ppm. And if you want another 1/2 to 1/4 of a degree, you've got to double it again, 1600 ppm, and then another doubling to get another 1/4 to 1/2 a degree. So there's no way the climate's going to run away, because we've pretty well saturated the effect of the carbon dioxide, and any more that we add is not having a major effect on the climate at all. So
the question's got to be, what's all the fuss about?
Exactly. You tell me. It's a synthetic crisis designed to facilitate essentially a power grab based on fear.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe it. I don't know, Lembit, I think you have the same feeling as well.
I first bang on with the chart, with the charts and the slides. I've used many of them myself. My journey into climatology began this surprising statistic coming up. In 1978, when I was 13, that's when I first took a real big interest in it. And I got something published around 1980 about snowball Earth, the idea that the Earth had been covered from pole to pole with ice, and that was proved around 2006. That wasn't bad work for a 15-year-old. Here's a surprising statistic. Climatology in its modern form began around 1896 with a guy called Svante Arrhenius, in my view. He actually came up with the erroneous CO2 theory, but it was good for its time, which means I've been studying climatology for a third of the history of climatology. and what I learned was three things. Number one, we really don't know quite what drives the ice ages and so on, but we have a pretty good idea. There's a big shiny thing in the sky, which is quite important, called the sun. The second thing we know is that carbon dioxide cannot possibly do what it's been blamed for because of the physics you've described. It just hasn't got the firepower to do it. It's impossible. It's shot its bullets. It's going to maybe make a slightly beneficial small increase if you have a lot more CO2. It helps. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. And the third thing is this whole thing is a cult, and it is a power grab, a money grab, and it makes uneconomic technologies, large uneconomic, wind and solar in places like Britain, into massive money spinners for the people smart enough and cynical enough to invest in them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really weird that the curtailment thing, you know, we're actually paying producers not to put power into the grid. They should only be paid when they're putting power into the grid and when it's useful. They should not be subsidized to turn the damn wind farms and solar arrays off.
It's insane. Just so that people understand what you said there, because that's obvious to you and to me, and to Paul. But ladies and gentlemen, when it's too windy, they switch the wind turbines off, but pay them anyway. And so basically, they guarantee a return for this uneconomic nonsense. It's rubbish. So the reason your energy bills are so high, well, two reasons. One, we insisted on blowing up Nord Stream pipeline, clearly initiative, and the other
also
one,
the CIA or whoever it was.
I believe that. I believe that. Basically, we don't go for the cheap energy, and the second thing is we are actively investing in the most expensive energy. And on that last one, we all agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let's crack on a bit more. This next slide is produced two of the top atmospheric physicists, Weingarten and Happer. Will Happer is a Nobel, I think he's a Nobel laureate, but he's certainly an emeritus professor in physics. And what they did, they actually painstakingly worked out what the absorption spectrum of the atmosphere is by taking the absorption spectrum of each gas, aggregating it or multiplying it at each section across the frequency of distribution, and then added up all the gases to get a composite spectrum. So the blue line, I don't know if you can see it's blue, the one that touches H2O with N2O just above it, that's the Planck black body equation. Basically says what a perfect black body would radiate back into space when it receives radiation from the sun. The black line underneath is the aggregate of water and other gases in the atmosphere. The green line is the bit that's mainly CO2 is mainly would be if there was no CO2, the green line, right? And then the thing falls down again, and it's got a couple of other absorption shoulders. But the key thing is that the area that water absorbs is much larger than the area that carbon dioxide absorbs in across the spectrum, and it's a much more efficient global warming gas, or well, it's an infrared. Transient infrared absorber, because the other thing that most people forget is that the Earth is suspended in interplanetary space, and the temperature of interplanetary space is somewhere between 3 and 4 Kelvin, which is like the Kelvin scale starts, the zero on the Kelvin scale is minus 273 degrees Celsius, and that's when all molecular motion stops. It's absolute zero. So the medium that our planet is suspended in is at minus 270 Celsius. So any extra energy or warming we get, it gets wicked out to space very quickly. So there's no chance of runaway, because as the energy goes up, eventually you reach the point where the extra energy the planet's received is wicked away by interplanetary space because it's so cold. So anybody talking about tipping points in an upward temperature direction is talking through his hat. The other direction, you mentioned snowball Earth. If we get to the position where there's a huge amount of cloud cover and lots of ice, solid ice, you can get into a snowball Earth situation where the clouds and the combination of that and ice actually means that the Earth turns into a snowball and it freezes from the poles towards the equator. So, you know, in the past there was probably, or there have been periods where there's been a livable area very close to the equator, but the poles and quite a way up to where we are, even temperate regions, was covered in ice. And of course there were no cars, no SUVs or anything else in those days. So it's all entirely natural variation. And what we're seeing at the moment is just pure natural variation. There's nothing unusual about it. And the key thing is that the dip where it's got CO2 in the middle, it's made up of two lines. There's a black line, and that's CO2 at 400 ppm. And then the red line is the double it at 800 ppm. And you can see it's virtually indistinguishable from the 400 one. As I said before with the previous slide, we can add more and more CO2 and it's not going to make a blind bit of difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
this all goes back to what we say, which is the climate is changing, but it always has.
Yes, absolutely. It's been changing for the last 4.8 billion years or 4.5. You know, since the Earth was formed, and we have no control over it. And to imagine that we can have any control over it is just I'm trying to think of the word. It's
like arrogance about it almost.
It's arrogance, absolutely. Yeah. It's absolute arrogance and hubris. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah. Okay, so that's Weingarten and Happer, and Will Happer. If you Google Will Happer, he talks a lot on CO2 and how important CO2 is for our survival. Never mind, you know, that it's a pollutant. He absolutely goes ballistic when people claim CO2 is a pollutant. It's the gas of life, because we're all made of it. You know, we're sort of 90-odd% carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and it's water and carbon dioxide, effectively, with a few other trace elements. Yeah. So if we move on to the next slide. Photosynthesis. This is where, and nobody seems to talk about this very much nowadays, but the whole point is that carbon dioxide's purpose in life really is to act as a food for plants. And of course, the key thing about plants is that the animal life on Earth in general, not the aquatic life, but the land-based life, eats plants generally, the herbivores, and then the other animals, the carnivores and omnivores, either eat plants or the herbivores. So if you don't have plant fertilization of plants, you won't have any life. This will be a dead planet. Nobody seems to understand that. And the photosynthesis process, whereby carbon dioxide is converted into what do you call it? Carbohydrates. At the plant surface is a very complicated process with chlorophyll and other things, but basically it's turned into hydrocarbon chains, carboxy chains by nature through photosynthesis, and without it, no plants, no life.
Exactly.
And in fact, one of the bonuses of the relatively small increase in CO2 we've seen in the last 150, 200 years is that the Earth has greened, and a lot of places which couldn't previously support vegetation now can, because when the carbon dioxide levels go up, the cells in plants that absorb carbon dioxide can actually contract because there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the beauty of that is that the plant can then stop water from emerging in the opposite direction. It means plants can conserve water and so grow more efficiently. And of course, greenhouse owners pump 2 to 3 times the amount of current atmospheric CO2 into the atmosphere in the greenhouse, up to sort of 1,000, 1,200 ppm, to actually stimulate plant growth to get better yields. And we can see the effect of that. I think the next slide. This is you can see the change in leaf area between 1980 and 82 and 2015 here, and there's been a significant greening over that period, which is, some places up to 50% increase in greening, and very little evidence of any sort of retreat. So the more CO2 we have, the better it is for plant life, and the better it is for humanity, because we can feed ourselves better.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think the other thing, of course, is that Mr. Miliband tries to convince us that we can do anything about changing the trajectory of human emissions by chucking our own economy off the cliff. Well, this next slide shows that's probably not this one. No. So it shows our carbon dioxide emissions from hydrocarbons. I don't like fossil fuels. I think it's a stupid phrase, because if you go to the Natural History Museum and grind up a Tyrannosaurus Rex and try and set light to it, not going to happen. So they're hydrocarbons. They're either synthetic or they're natural hydrocarbons. Yeah. And you can see that ours peaked sort of in 50 to 70 years, peaked about 2005, 85. Yeah, 35, yeah, about 1985, and they've been dwindling, but they're a tiny proportion of the total. Europe's have followed our trajectory, as does North America. But if you look at the other places like India, China, Asia, excluding China and India, they've just ramping up dramatically, and the Chinese are building a power station a week or something, I think it is. And large power stations using supercritical coal, very efficiently burned. So they are efficient and nowhere near as polluting as previous generationals, but they're still using coal. And it's the bedrock of their economy. They're doing some renewables, but mainly they're burning coal.
So Lembit, what's your thoughts on Ed Miliband's take on things?
Well, the earth is literally blowing in wind.
The problem we've got is so's his intellect. It's blowing the wind. But the problem we've got with Ed Miliband is he is intellectually totally ill-equipped for his job. He doesn't understand the stuff that we've covered in the first 20 minutes of this show. He just doesn't understand it. Anybody in his position should have a better grasp of his brief than he does. It's risible. It's actually embarrassing to have an energy minister who doesn't understand the basic physics of what CO2 does, the fact it's our friend, gas of life, as Piers Corbyn often says as well, that it's done more or less what it's going to do in terms of heating the planet. We'll have to find other ways to heat the planet if we want to do that, which we should actually. A pretty good idea to make it a bit warmer, because most of the history of the Earth, there hasn't been any ice at the North and South Pole. Not many people know that. And when you look at the government and Ed Miliband's behaviour, it fits in exactly with the cult point you made at the beginning. This is a scientific sophistry. It's nonsense. And when you ask them, the classic question, I always ask this of people, MPs and campaigners, what percentage of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide? They'll give you the stupidest answers. They go, well, often for some reason, 12% is the most common guess. But I've had 90%. It was 95% billions of years ago, but now it's, as you said, 0.04. If you had 100, if you had 1 million golf balls, white golf balls, and painted 400 of them red, that's the CO2. It's ridiculous. If you burn all of the fossil fuels in the whole world, you can't do it straight away, but let's say across 50 years, somehow you did it, you might be able to double CO2, but you probably couldn't get much further than that. And that would be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other thing is that we haven't mentioned it, but over the last 145 million years or so, aquatic life's been very efficient at actually sequestering carbon dioxide from seawater to convert it into the shells as a defense mechanism. And that's what caused the long declining depletion in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, because all of those animals, when they die, the shell sinks to the bottom of the ocean and gets compressed under the very high pressures, deep ocean depths, and gets converted into carboniferous rock. And once it's down there as rock, it's not ever going to come out.
If we were around for a really long time, we would actually have to find a way to release that carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Because plant life needs it.
Yes.
Plant life might evolve to eat other stuff, but at the moment, if we wanted to maintain, this is the irony about the Greens, they want to maintain the world the way it is. That's not a natural thing to do. But if we wanted to maintain the world the way it is, we would have to find ways to release carbon dioxide. Hydrocarbons, burning all the oil and the gas and all the coal, it only gets you so far. You actually have to go down and do something with that rock, which is exactly the opposite of what we're being told by foolish people like Miliband.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, he's a zealot, and of course, his belief trumps any sound science, and that's the difficulty.
I saw a great cartoon, which I'm now going to moderate, but you can guess what it said originally. It's got a picture of Ed Miliband saying,
I'm going to bury 22 billion pounds worth of carbon dioxide in the ground.
And there's a tree which has a speech bubble that says, I do that for free, you silly sausage. But I
I think the big problem here is that ideology sounds like quite a soft and fluffy word, whereas cult tells you exactly what it is. And that's the problem. It's people's interpretation due to the language that's being used.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What have we got now? I don't know if we need to use this next one, but basically it just shows the next one shows how the scale of the carbon cycle. It's enormous, and it puts the 96.5% of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere comes from natural processes, oceans, vegetation, phytoplankton, and only 3.5% from fossil fuels that we're burning. Fossil fuels.
It's close. It's close enough.
Yeah, but the vast majority of the stuff comes from animal life, phytoplankton, termites, things like that. Insect life, obviously, termites, and the amount that we're putting in is very, very small, and of course it gets recycled by nature very quickly. The IPCC tries to make out that the any carbon dioxide we put in the atmosphere stays there for 200 years. It doesn't. It's recycled within about 5 to 7 years.
Well, don't worry, Brian, because we'll be eating insects soon, so don't worry.
Yeah, right.
I spent a couple of weeks looking at this not long ago because I'm just really interested in it. My conclusion was that the human contribution to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is something like 1 atom per million extra every 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
That's about it. But the thing is that these cultists, these climate hoax cultists, they have to make you believe that the atmosphere is so badly designed that this tiny little teeny weeny bit of human generated carbon dioxide messes the whole thing up. It's ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
I was on a religious show recently, and I said, well, there's even a religious explanation for why this can't be true. And they said, well, this. I said, well, think about it this way. On the 7th day, the Creator has created the universe, and he's sitting down for his Sunday lunch, and he goes, oh, no, I forgot about the CO2. I hope they don't notice. It's a pretty big design flaw. It's equal to the Death Star. Now, I don't think Earth has that design flaw, because when CO2 has been off the scale, it's come back. Otherwise, we would be living on Venus. The reason Venus is like it the way it is because it's close to the sun. It's very simple to explain. It's pretty much the twin sister planet of the Earth. And it's very close to the sun. The reason Mars is colder is smaller, but it's further away from the sun. If you're near the fan heater, you get hot. If you're far away from the fan heater, you get cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is cool out there, out in space. 3 degrees Kelvin, as we've discussed already. So any excess energy that we get from more warming from the sun, eventually the energy in and energy out balance out, maybe slightly higher than where we were before, but there's no tipping point as the temperature goes up. There will be a tipping point eventually, but that's when the sun stops burning hydrogen and starts burning helium and turns into a red giant, because it'll then expand and it will encompass the Earth before it. Good old Brian Cox did this, by the way, but I've watched his program Universe. Once it expands us to a point where it's all consumed all the near planets, including the Earth, then it runs out of helium to burn, and then it starts to contract and ends up as a white dwarf.
I've suddenly become very much more skeptical about Paul Naylor's good intentions, because while you were describing essentially Armageddon and the worst parts of Revelations, he was laughing.
It's like 5 billion.
Do you know why?
I don't think we'll be too bothered about it by then, Lembit.
Exactly. I was thinking, how far away is this? How many years down the line? So I thought,
I think it's about 5 billion. It might be more, because they don't know. I mean, they keep talking about expanding universe and all this other crap, and string theory and dark matter and all that. It's so abstruse that I don't know. But I have a feeling from watching this Brian Cox program Universe that he said it would be another, because our planet's about getting on for 5 billion years old now, and they reckon the end of the universe is going to be another 5 billion years. So it's not of great concern to any of us sitting here.
I think you're giving Paul false comfort there. It could be as little as 1 billion years.
Oh well, okay. Well, that's not
really worried about that.
It's not really worrying me. I must be honest.
So there's a small chance I could get to see the end then.
It's not going to happen.
A very small chance. Yeah.
If I had a time machine, I wouldn't go to see the end of the universe. I'd go forward a week and buy a copy of the Racing Post and come back.
Exactly. Yeah. or the get the lottery numbers and go back. Yeah.
I think a lot of this comes down to bad news sells, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we've comprehensively dismantled the climate crisis myth. What should we talk about now?
Well, I'll tell you. Let me play devil's advocate. And I wondered sometimes, if somebody gave me enough money, could I put a strong case for the climate emergency? And I struggle with it, but let me try. Let me try. Let's take Zach Polanski, who the viewer may understand when I say is not averse to making big boobs. He in a hypnotic way. Don't you know the story, Brian?
Is he could ladies on bon point to expand through hypnosis?
Apparently. I mean, that's quite a skill. If he really has that skill, why is he in politics?
Does he send spoons in his spare time?
So anyway, leaving Zach Polanski, I actually want to bring him on and I want to interview him. He's apparently quite a likable chap. I don't think I've met him, but I'd love to give him space either on Full Throttle or I'll get him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give him enough rope to hang himself.
It'd really be interesting. Let me try and do the best job I could if I was head of the Green Party. I'd say now it's more than just. We all agree that it's got warmer since around 1850. That's pretty much the beginning of the big time industrial revolution. Now, CO2, you might say, has gone up and down, but it hasn't gone up as fast. As far as we can see, it hasn't gone up as fast as it has since then. So it's gone up from ppm, parts per million, from something like 280 of whatever ppm is to about 420. So it's clearly gone up by about 50%. And humans seem to be the main thing. Second thing, it's got warmer. And you've got quite unusual temperatures in some parts of the world, and it's got warmer. So you have to now tell me that after a fairly long period of stability, humans come along, start their steam engines, gas turbines, and suddenly it gets warmer. How do you explain that?
But it's the problem with that is given by Jürgen Stefan Pedersen, I think his name is, in a YouTube video. This guy's a Danish climatologist, and he's one of the guys that digs these long ice core things. And this video is brilliant because at the end he summarizes and said, well, If you wanted to design a bad experiment to determine what was changing the climate, you would start at the coldest point in the last 10,000 years, and that's what we did, because we were coming out of the little ice age when we got the ability to instrumentally measure temperature.
We still are coming out of that, aren't we? We are still coming out of that, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're still coming out of the little ice age. So if the temperature's not going up when you're coming out of an ice age and it's going down, that's a very bad sign. You know? So we should expect it to go up. The question is, how much does the CO2 that we've added, which is not a huge amount, how much difference does that make to the temperature? And the discussion we've already had says it's naff all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But if you just focus, you've got to get context. You've got to look at the total time scale, not just the last 150 years or 200 years.
But what do you say when people point out human beings got active burning hydrocarbons, gas, oil, coal, and carbon dioxide went up, and so did the temperatures? Three things altogether.
Well, because the temperature's gone up, because carbon dioxide's degassing from the ocean, so so there will be some increase from ocean degassing caused by the temperature rise, the trend that was already established. And the other thing is, I would say, is that there's nothing unusual about the temperatures now. If you go back about 5,000 or 6,000 years, there were hippopotamuses in the Thames and elephants roaming the savannas because the temperature was about 3 or 4 degrees warmer than it is now. So, it's just that's natural variation. And if you cherry pick your timescale, you can virtually prove anything you want. But if you look at the whole thing, as the whole picture as we did in the first slide, you can see that the temperature and the CO2 are going all over the place, different times, different directions sometimes. But when they are in register, it's because the temperature is driving atmospheric carbon dioxide.
Oh.
Not the other way.
But what I'd say then is, all right, I'll just try it a different way. If you're wrong, we're making a horrendous mistake. If you're wrong, it'll be too late to do anything about it in 30 years' time. And then we'll sit here and frown.
Oh, no, that's played out, that one, Lembit. They've been saying that. I mean, when I was just started working, 40 odd years ago, even if you think I only worked 50% of the time, they were saying, oh, we're due we're going to have an ice age. We're going to have an ice age. And then we've heard also, oh no, we've got global warming. There'll be no Arctic ice. There'll be no Antarctic ice. Children won't know what snow is. I mean, there's about 60 things that they said would come to pass in that sort of 50-year span, and not a single solitary one of them has.
Okay, why are islands sinking?
They're not. The latest evidence shows that Mauritius, not Mauritius, that's pretty Chagos thing. All these Samoa, all the Maldives, they're actually rising up out of the ocean, and they're building runways for tourists, for airports like there's no tomorrow. So you don't do that if you think your islands are going to submerge under the ocean, do you? No bright politician is going to do that. He might try and get some money out of the UN and the rich nations by saying, "Oh wow, we're all doomed, and we're going to be underwater," and all this stuff. That was like the phrase. It wasn't a template of Samoan accent. And of course, great. Past the bowl round, we'll get a few billion from America, UK, and other places, and we'll build more runways and have more tourism.
Absolutely.
Why don't you just be honest with them and say, here's a few billion, go and build your runways and stop worrying, mithering us with rubbish claims about sinking, under the ocean.
So what's causing the mass extinction of animals? For example,
the polar bears population has sort of something like doubled in the last 30 years to the point where they're now talking about culling them because they're a danger to humans. You look into all of these. None of them have a grain of
type in the world.
A grain of truth in them. You know that, Lembit. And if you read what's his name, Schellenberger's book, Michael Schellenberger, Apocalypse Never. It is a brilliant book because he's looked into this, and he like Bjorn Lomborg was one of these people who was a climate cultist, and he wanted to prove that what he was saying was true. And the problem is, when he started trying to prove it, he found it was all untrue. So he flipped from being a climate cultist to being a realist because he actually examined the evidence. Like Patrick Moore, the former Greenpeace member, who also believes now carbon dioxide is a gift. It's the gas of life.
Well, you might say all that, but you haven't convinced me. I think there's a climate emergency.
You may be right, but not the one you're expecting, Lembit. Because if you look at the research of people like Valentina Zarkova and the other guy, Habibulu Abdusamatov, they're all talking about a grand solar minimum, and that is really bad news. You're talking about little ice age with knobs on, and temperature dropping. And of course, as temperatures go up and carbon dioxide levels go up, our ability to feed ourselves on a planetary scale gets better. But if it goes the other way, then you're going to have global famines and millions of people dying of hunger because the planet's no longer warm enough to sustain enough plant life, and that is a real problem.
My last point is you're obviously in the pocket of big oil.
I wish we were. I'm hoping at some point we might be.
I know what you're doing there.
Because if we can get the oil industry to actually put its head above the parapet and defend itself and debunk all this rubbish we've been subjected to, then that would be great for humanity, great for plant life, great for animal life.
Your witness.
I rest my case.
I think so, the big thing is as well, it's not what we're being told, but why we're being told.
Exactly. That's what you've got to look at. And the people telling us this stuff are sort of born again billionaires who think that socialism's great, as Margaret Thatcher said, socialism's great until it runs out of other people's money.
Exactly.
Usually ours.
Yeah.
All of these sort of Rockefellers and all these people, they're one at them and the Schwab, who's also a billionaire, Klaus Schwab of World Economic Forum. Their interest is in controlling the way politics evolves on this planet, so that they are the ones who are pulling the levers, not national governments. Which is why all of these supranational organisations. World Economic Forum, World Bank, World Health Organization, not all world. They're looking for a world government where they control all the levers. Well, it's not the kind of world I want to live in. I don't want to be told how many cockroaches I've got to eat today, and all the other sort of awful stuff that they want. This is where you can go. This is what you can do. This is how much you can spend. This is where you can spend it and how you can spend it. No thanks. That's not my idea of fun. The last German corporal and who tried that came a cropper.
Franz Ferdinand.
No. I mean, good old Adolf H. Yeah, because all and I think we've discussed this as well, and the far right, far left thing is redundant now. Because when you think about it, far right and far left are basically the same. They're totalitarian. So, they join up at the totalitarian end, whether it's far left or far right. They're indistinguishable. If you're under the Nazis or the communists, it didn't matter because you're a rightless slave of the state. But what we want is a libertarian economy where we elect the government and the government enacts laws that we asked for. Not laws that were passed down by some supranational organisation and are forced on us by a puppet government. Am I right or am I wrong?
I obviously I'm persuaded by this. I've come to this conclusion independently. It wasn't that I chose to reject the climate emergency. I chose to study it.
Yes.
And there would be only one scientific conclusion. The science is close to settled, and it's not absolute. No, science is never completely settled, but it's close to settled. there cannot be a climate emergency because the Earth's mechanisms don't facilitate it. You'd have to move the Earth 17 million miles closer to the sun. That would cause a climate emergency, or 17 million miles further away, probably less of a climate emergency, it'd still be a problem. But unless you actually move the Earth closer to or further away from the great big fan heater in the sky, it's pretty stable.
Exactly. I mean, that's why they call it the Goldilocks zone where we are.
Yeah.
Not too far, not too close, just right. One small point at the beginning, you said that there might have been a habitable zone along the equator, even during the snowball period. It might have been slush ball. It's possible.
Yeah.
It might be that actually life had to go into the liquid water because the oceans didn't freeze underneath. It's very likely there's a really interesting object in space called Europa. It's a satellite, actually. It's pretty big. And looks like it's got 100-kilometer deep liquid ocean of water underneath this big ice crust all over. Who knows what could be living there? Enceladus, which is another satellite, seems to have liquid water. So that probably will happen. But the fundamental point is the Earth is stable. It'll just find a new, what's called dynamic equilibrium. We get a bit more heat, it gets a bit warmer. That makes it radiate. Almost like a cup of coffee. It cools down very quickly when it's really hot. And then the closer it gets room temperature, the less it cools.
Asymptotic,
And so, that's right. And so the Earth's just pretty good at looking after itself. It barely notices that we're here. When they say save the Earth, let's save the age of reason, because we're currently heading towards the end of reason.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's unhinged. Okay. Well, I think we've done a good job there.
Well, we think we have.
I'm sure our viewers will make that decision and either give us I can't get that or I've been watching.
Leave it for the reindeer. Leave it for the reindeer.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. So, anything else we desperately need to get off our chests or talk about? How is the channel going in general? Then the UnprecedentedTV. You've got. There's a lot of broadcasting on it and lots of archived material now.
We've got, at the time of recording this, it's over 630 shows we've produced now. It's phenomenal, actually. We've got 24 presenters, current and coming. Very recently, I was talking to a band that would like to debut on our station.
Oh, right.
Great, yeah, really interesting lady. I saw the live performance recently, and I gave her the number, so have a look if you're interested. In the old days, I used to chase people and say, please, we really want to have you on. I don't do that anymore. I say, you get in touch with us if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got a slight waiting list for programs now. So it is good. We're looking for funding. And whether you're running an oil company or, frankly, a solar company or anything, if you are interested in supporting the home of free speech all over the world, which is unprecedented, then get in touch with us. And quite literally, I would want to get Zach Polanski on. I want to have that chat because we'll listen to that prejudice, probably have a bit of a laugh because we're so different in views. But give him a fair chance to express his views. And that's really, I think, working quite well. I don't want to oversell it. Maybe I'm invested in that sense. But I feel that we've ticked a lot of good boxes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
We've already had a number of high-profile guests as well. So
yes,
not,
from left and right. Chris Williamson, former Labour MP, quite a hard line, big friend of Corbyn's. We've had Tommy Robinson. We've had Nick Griffin. We've had Ben Habib. We don't discriminate. And the great thing about this, including your show, is we express our opinions, but we don't dress them up as facts.
Yeah.
The conclusions we draw are our opinions, but the facts we draw them upon are also cited. It's exciting. It's been a really exciting year. I was working on Unprecedented TV for 3 or 4 years before we launched. And this great guy called Mehdi Murtaleb, he's got TV studios in West London. We hope to start inhabiting those next year and do some outside broadcasts. And I know I'm saying this with some confidence. It could well be that even Full Throttle may be going on tour. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Early next year, Lembit.
Maybe without the antlers.
Yes, yeah.
Oh no, it's you. I didn't recognize you.
The reindeer's been called.
And I would have gone away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Scooby's scared.
Right.
No, Scoops. So yeah, I'm hoping that 2026. You might be watching this in the archive, of course. You can compare what we've said with the fact that British summer temperatures have gone up to 50 Celsius.
Yeah.
And since we haven't, then maybe.
That was at RAF Coningsby, was it? Yeah, when 2-3 typhoons were taking off.
Briefly, of taking off typhoons, I think it was. I raised the temperature momentarily. I'll just add one last thing before I stop talking. Two thoughts. One is, I hope 2026 is the year when people realise that we are really the guardians of what public service broadcasting was set up to do, but isn't being done. The BBC's got itself.
We try to inform instead of indoctrinating.
Yeah, that's right. And people can know our views. I think it's better that they do, because then they can see, well, Lembit doesn't believe there's time of emergency. Yeah, okay. So from that perspective, that's where I come from it. I'm not trying to say something that's not true, but I do think that we're doing something which is important. I do want to share this other thing I just remembered. Perhaps the best line ever said in Britain about snow. Dr. David Viner from the utterly discredited Climactic Research Unit in the University of East Anglia, a university I will never let my children ever study in. If they want to go there, they can pay for it themselves after this. He said in the year 2000, snow would be a very rare event. Our children just don't know what snow is. Yes, indeed. I'm feeling a white Christmas and a red David Viner.
I think it was a bit wide of the mark there. I mean, if he heads off up to Aviemore or wherever now, I'm sure we can find plenty of this stuff. And all around the world.
In June in Turkey.
Well, really, when you start making apocalyptic predictions like that, you're just setting yourself up for a fall.
Yeah,
absolutely. But it's hubris is the danger, and the hubris melts not in the glare of the sun, but in the glare of the truth, and that's what we're all about here on Unprecedented TV. And I salute you guys for a fantastic year of Full Throttle, a series 3 years in the making as well. But here it is.
Yeah,
it's been a buzz to make. It's been really good fun, and we've had a lot of really good guests as well. Made it. It's been excellent. Yeah. Let's hope next year will be just as good.
It'll be even better. The numbers are going to go up. And if you do like it, please do subscribe. You'll get all of the back catalogue. At the moment, it's free. And if you want to advertise as well, we are now talking to people who want to advertise on the station. So lots of up arrows. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Excellent.
Have a fantastic Christmas.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody, a fantastic Christmas, a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year.
Yeah, and we'll see you in 2026.
And we'll see you in 2026.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.